Wait till she's done. All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the corporate authorities for the Village of Campton Hills. It's May 26, 2026 at 6:30 PM. Roll call. I don't know who's going to take roll.
I can.
Okay.
Good.
We're missing our clerk today.
Yeah,
so.
Trustee Hassenberger is on, turn this on. Trustee Hassenberger's on vacation and said she'd be missing tonight. Trustee Burson?
Aye. Present.
Present. Trustee Millette is running late. Trustee Benetti?
Here.
Trustee Boatner?
Here.
Trustee Muir?
Here.
And President Wohicki, we have a
Present.
quorum, yes.
Okay. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Nick, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
We will move on to public comment. And Chief, would you like to introduce the chaplain?
Yes, thank you. So I don't have a police department report tonight, so I am doing it in public comment. A couple of years ago, we revamped the health wellness program for the police department. A lot of things has changed, so we've improved on a lot of stuff. One thing that was lacking, or what we needed, which a lot of agencies don't have, is a department-assigned chaplain. So we were very fortunate that Chaplain Raul, who is here tonight, so I can introduce him to you guys, very passionate, experienced, a man of faith. He is volunteering his time to work with our agency. So not only is it a benefit to the officers, but having Chaplain Raul, what a benefit is when we have a call in the community, it could be wide-ranging, it could be a death, it could be a suicide. He's an excellent resource for our officers to call 24 hours a day and have him come out and be able to listen, provide compassion, and help families during difficult times. So he does this as a volunteer for us, so I'm extremely thankful for it, but I at least want to have the opportunity tonight to introduce you to him so that you all can meet. And I told him as soon as it was done, he was free to depart. So I just wanted everyone to meet Chaplain Raul tonight, so thank you.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. Okay, anybody else have a public comment? Hearing none, seeing none. All right, we will move on to the consent agenda. Anything removed from the consent agenda? Any trustee? No? Okay, I'll take a motion to move the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Janet, second by Kim. No discussion. All in favor, roll call. Roll call.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on to 5, staff reports, engineering and public works, and that's Scott Marquardt.
Good evening. So you have a staff report. We do this periodically. Typically, it's in a period following a Public Works Committee meeting, shortly thereafter. But to give you an update on current projects, upcoming projects, in some cases, give you a heads up of something that's going to be coming to the board for approval at an upcoming meeting. Just keep you involved with new programs, projects, and such. So I'm not going to read through everything. You've got all the material, but I do want to hit a couple of highlights on different projects. 2025 road program, we don't have to cover because that was approved and final about a month ago. 2026 road program, that's the KCOM funded project. that we've been awaiting for quite some time. That is on the June 12th letting. It's a state letting for that project. The state opens the bids for it, but they will seek village board concurrence on the award. It's on the 12th, and the next board meeting after that is June 16th. So we will not know until last minute to get that information into the village board packet to request a concurrence in regards to what the bids will be. We'll have everything ready. I'd already talked with Clerk Johnson to be able to get that to her by Sunday evening to put that last bit of information into the packet. At that point, it'll be regarded, then we'll know the contractor, then we'll know the bid pricing, anything else and such. So that is
And the schedule,
and the schedule of that, a project like that will typically, won't start construction for about 6 weeks after a bid opening. So you'd be looking at construction probably late July to start. Schedule would be to complete yet this fall. But those are details to come once a contractor is known. So I wanted to give you that heads up, and if there's any questions anybody has at this time in regards to what you're going to see at the June 16th board meeting about that project.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Scott on that project? Okay.
Okay, good. And that's the one that is 75% grant funded
That's
for that
nice.
project, so.
Boy, that's nice.
Going through additional items in here, I wanted to give you a refresher on some of the goals for the coming year, different types of projects that are coming up. We've got 4 bridges the village is responsible for inspecting. Those are all scheduled this year. It's a routine type inspection. They're all scheduled to be done later this fall, and the board has already approved a contract for that. Next project is the central section of Campton Hills Road between Town Hall Road and LaFox Road. That's another project that we have federal grant funding for. We've already awarded a design contract, and that is underway. That project is currently scheduled in the program for 2029 construction.
Wow.
Our goal, which we had talked to when we brought the contract forward, was if we can get the design engineering completed earlier, and if there's flexibility in their program, to see if that could be pulled into an earlier year, either 2028 or 2027. So that's another project that is underway on design. Of course, it is subject to where funds in that program rest, if there's any availability in those earlier years. But they always have projects moving back and forth, so that is the aim for that project.
and when you say funding, not the village's portion of the support of the funding, but the federal, state.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes, it's the federal funding program. They allocate X amount each year. They can't spend more than what is allocated. But for example, if another project is delayed or another project comes in under budget and there's federal funding available to move it into an earlier year, that's what we would try to do. So 2029 at the latest, aiming for 28 or 2027.
Scott, if I may. We approved for that the engineering, so it was shovel-ready. Do I recall that we did that?
Correct.
Okay.
And the design engineering is underway so that we're able to try to advance it into those earlier years.
Right, okay. I just wanted to verify that my memory was correct on that.
You are correct. We are working on the design of that.
Okay, great.
Next item on here, 3, is annually the village has to submit a NPDES MS4 permit report to the state. That is underway. I'll have that in the administrator's office here in the desk in the next couple days for signature for that to be submitted to keep the village compliant on that. Next item I want to bring attention to, item 4, is McDonald Road. 2 more applications were submitted last year, and for 2 sections of McDonald Road, And both of those are on the contingency program for funding for resurfacing for those roadways. What does contingency mean? There were more applications submitted than there was available funding for. It didn't rank it high enough to hit the mark of become active funded right away, but they are both eligible projects. What we're going to propose to the board is, and they're contingency funded for 2030 construction. That's how far out this federal funding is obligated. In order to prove the village chances, as we did with Town Hall Road, Danker Road, and Brown Road, is we're going to suggest to the village board that you advance design engineering probably in 2027 to get the design of those kicked off, to be able to move it from contingency to active funded. This was mentioned to the Public Works Committee and at the April meeting, and they were fully for processing in that manner. So sometime up here within the next half a year or so, we're going to look to bring a contract to the village board. If it can't happen until May 1 of next year with the next budget year, so be it, but we still want to have that project advanced earlier in design.
Scott, is that from Coron going west all the way to 47?
There's two different sections. The west
Okay.
section is from Route 47 to east of Kendall Road,
Okay.
where the village limit is.
Mhm.
And then the next section is east of Coron to the eastern village limits, east of Far Lap.
Okay.
There's two different sections
Mhm.
that are village jurisdiction. But because of the project size, we broke it up into two different segments that were evaluated separately.
Okay.
And
Anybody
President?
else? Oh, Janet, I'm sorry.
I'm glad that this is happening, thank you. I happen to live up that way, and I drive on McDonald regularly. If everything goes according to plan, we might see this work in 2029, right?
best case.
Well, yes, we have to,
No criticism.
No.
Just trying to get the realistic timeline. So we might see it in 2029, it could be 2030. It's 2026 now. This road is barely drivable in lots of places. And this only covers the Campton Hills segments of it, right?
correct.
So for example, it's almost not drivable eastbound from the village limit that you're speaking out, just east of Kendall Road to Dittman Road. That's not our fault, that's somebody else's fault. And then the village takes over on the other side of Dittman, and then it switches back to the township, and then it switches to Elgin, and we do a dance all along that road, you know, until we finally get to the final eastern terminus of it. But in any event, what I'm getting at is that if we all agree that the village parts of it, that we can get this grant funding for to 75%, minus engineering costs of this restoration is a good thing. That's 3.5 years, 4 years out from today. So I think we're gonna have to have some kind of a interim resurfacing plan. I think it's more than potholes. And I'm not, but I don't see how you can go up to 4 years from today on that road without some sort of significant resurfacing plan, especially because of the determined efforts by Elgin to make sure that there's a lot more traffic on that road than there would have been otherwise. So I think that this is great that we're trying to get this help from KKCOM, but I think it's more than pothole fixing, and I don't know, Trustee Millette knows more about this than I do, but perhaps we can identify limited segments of that road that can be milled and filled in the interim. But I just don't see how you're gonna get 4 years out of that road as it is with just 16 more potholes.
Totally understand and totally agree. And we've had discussions with the highway district. They know that combination of Durapatching, pothole patching, maybe some mill and fill patching is gonna be necessary. Hence the reason why we're suggesting to the village board that you advance the design engineering to move it forward, to get it active funded, to try to get it done that early. There's just, we're competing with every other public agency out there for the same limited pot of money. So that's a step that, combination of maintenance to get through that time before and we're proposing full improvements, full depth reclamation on that roadway as well.
And is that gonna be only on the village segments of it? So would it be full depth reclamation from 47 to that spot between Kendall and Dittman? And then we sit with the road that the township is maintaining up until we get to Coron, and then we do full depth reclamation again?
Yes, that would be full depth reclamation on the village portions. The city of Elgin segments were resurfaced
From Crawford to
2 to 3 years
Coron.
ago.
Yeah.
So there've been different agencies been doing different
Yeah,
improvements.
that segment's pretty good.
Yeah.
But we would partner with the township highway department, like we've done on other roads for segments of McDonald, would we not?
Not beyond the village, no, it was not included in
Oh, it
this.
wasn't in the
No, it
township.
was not.
No, that would be a significant commitment on their part, because we're talking about.
Oh, it's Plato,
It's
isn't it?
Plato Township.
Then-
And they have probably as much or more jurisdiction in length.
That's right,
And it's the
than
same $1
village.
million, right?
yes.
So, yeah, that funding is for the two village-owned segments of McDonald Road.
Yep. Thank you, Scott.
Sure. Moving on, Harley Road, the bridge over the UP Railroad. The Phase 1 report for that has been completed, led by Blackberry Township. Now that that bridge is being taken over by the village as part of the annexations, next step is Phase 2 design engineering for that project. So that would be something we want to talk with the village about when we bring a contract forward for the design to keep the momentum going on that project. But that's
And what was the Phase 1 estimate, if it was a 90-10, federal?
I believe it was.
It's 80/20 is shown here, right?
Well, it could be as high as
80% for sure, 90 depending on the program. I believe their latest estimate was about 5.5 million. So 10 to 20% of that being a local share match. That-
So it's 250,000 to 500-some thousand of village monies.
Now, that estimate is construction.
No, or even
Isn't it?
double that.
Yeah.
It's
10 to 20 would
500 to
be-
1.2 million.
Yeah.
500 to 1 million. That estimate does not include engineering nor right-of-way.
Right-of-way.
Also.
Right.
So there is some right-of-way necessary as they rebuild the bridge, widen it, flatten out some slopes. So it's a pretty significant contract coming up. As we get into Phase 2, we'd look at details of the estimate for that work and
Yeah.
see if there's any value engineering
Yeah.
that could be done.
So that's gone up in price, almost $1 million in 12 months.
It has gone up.
Okay.
President Hickey?
Barb, President.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
When you mention right-of-way, we're talking about land acquisition on either side of the existing approach, is that right? To widen that approach?
It's not necessarily on both sides. It can be one side or both, depending on exactly
But it is
how
land
it's laid out.
acquisition
It
to
is land
widen the
acquisition,
approach?
Yes.
So there's some as yet unspecified cost of land acquisition.
Correct.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Moving along, Item 6 was something that's been discussed at Public Works, is a pavement rejuvenation program. Chances, if there's funding for that this year, are pretty unlikely. But what they wanted to stress is in future years that this not be a program that's funded if there's money left over, but be funded as a actual line item in the budget, funding dedicated for a pavement rejuvenation program. We're getting roads in good condition. Now it's time to make the allocation to keep them in good condition.
And I think they're aware that the user fees that the village recently passed last year that went into effect in January are coming in at $750,000 to $1 million. So you will have money other than the MFT out of the local distributive fund to budget for roads in the future. So that's,
And that's actually covered in a couple items further on
yeah.
in here.
Mike? Go
So we're talking about reclamite, we're talking about crack sealing, we're talking about the general stuff that you do to preserve what we've already invested in.
That is correct. Okay. Next item, LaFox Road jurisdictional transfer. I'm going to defer talking about that in detail now because there's a agenda item.
Well, just in the nature of saving time, Madam President, if we could, I think the IGA, I know a lot of you just got it today because we had a little problem with the attachments weren't going through, so it was too big. But suffice it to say, we have a great deal of staff work to do on that agreement. It, as we'd say in the business, it's very one-sided in the county's favor and not very respectful of the village being told they will be dictated to by the county on all aspects. So it's going to need some work before you will be ready to have a staff recommendation to pass it. We'll put it on again for discussion on the 2nd of June, but Scott and I have already briefly spoken. There's probably, I had about 8 points that needed to be done. He said 8. He's got double that, so he's doing his job. So we'll try to meet with the county rep on Thursday this week and address it and hopefully have some revisions before next Tuesday for you. But it's not ready for your approval in any fashion. Scott could go into some detail, but I think that's enough said on that matter.
I'll just
Now-
add to it, it is not in the village's best interest, the way the language, cost obligations, allocations of different projects for the village to look further without significant changes to those.
And there's no commitment to pay for rejuvenating LaFox Road when they transfer it to us either. So-
That is correct. There's nothing included in there for costs for potential improvements. That's definitely something to be looked at.
And prescriptive easements, if the rail line, UP is successful at the ICC closing that line, we'll need land to do cul-de-sacs at each end as it comes to the railroad property, so.
If you want to take over another about 3/4 of a mile of roadway, you want it in good condition, clear title, if you will, to right of way and such. So there's definitely some work that has to be done to
Yep.
clean up some of these terms. So, okay.
It's almost as if Scott and I haven't met with them 3 times since January.
Go
So
ahead.
that's enough said on that, so we won't need to discuss that later, but
Okay.
Scott?
Items 8, 9, and 11 are, as Administrator Rooney had mentioned, with some of the tax revenues that generated. These are mentioning things in here about how we want to work with the village, long-term plan, where are those funds going to go, what are they going to be used for, rejuvenation. Reclamite is one obvious, line item to be included, but now that there's an additional dedicated funding source, lay out and talk over, what are your concerns, what are your needs?
Janet wants to be recognized.
How do we account for those? So those are those items. Included in that, item 10 is GIS mapping of underground utilities, storm sewers, and culverts. The village needs a better handle on how many culverts, how many miles of storm sewer you're responsible for in order to better plan for those improvements. So the more mapping, the more documentation, information. Information is value. And the more that we have, we can bring to you about what you're responsible for, the better.
Okay, hold on there, Scott. Janet, go ahead.
One of the things that trustee Millette was kind of whispering to me, but we didn't fully get to, is that it sounds like what you're suggesting, if I read in between the lines, is that when we approve a road program, if we agree to spend $1 million to resurface roads, series of roads, then we should at that same time agree to the rejuvenation program that's going to follow 3 to 5 years later. So this really should be one and the same commitment, because it's part of taking care of the $1 million investment that you made, right? And so we shouldn't find ourselves asking 3 or 4 years later whether we have the money for it, but rather we should say, if we're going to spend that $1 million on a series of road miles that we're going to work on, that we should commit at that time to the rejuvenation program as part of the program. Did I understand that correctly?
I would agree, and that's how it's worked somewhat informally. But as the road program grows larger, the more formality you bring to it, the better. If you resurface it here, you know you have to do at this point rejuvenation maintenance. So absolutely.
So you can predict it pretty well within a 3 to 5 year time frame.
Correct.
And then traffic and sun and stuff.
Yeah, Mike? No? That's good.
I was gonna say, I mean, it depends on how much sun, direct sun, because the sun bleaches out the asphalt. Depends how much traffic, because that's how much repetitive loading you have. Sometimes it depends on the original mix as it went down, which you don't necessarily see for a couple, 2 or 3 years until after the fact goes. So, yeah, but 3 to 5 years has always been the great rule of thumb. You could push low-volume streets out to 6 or 7, but you wouldn't really want to go beyond that.
And sometimes sooner, there's additional variables. A very shaded roadway doesn't dry out, deteriorates quicker. Something that's wide open to the sun tends to get a little longer life before it starts deteriorating. But yes, that's an absolute great step follow-up. If you're improving resurfacing here, plan for maintenance or rejuvenation, define time frame later.
It's just good budgeting,
Yes.
best practice.
Moving on, a couple more things.
Hold on there, Scott. Kim?
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So after the 2 sections of Campton Hills Road are completed, or the one that's going to get done this year, would you recommend that be rejuvenated the following year because of the way that's shaded with freeze thaw?
The western section that'll be done this year is not as shaded as the eastern section, east of Town Hall Road. But with that, we're looking at doing over 5 miles of roadways this year. Guess what I'm going to be asking for, that you should be planning for a couple of years from now, is rejuvenation of all of those roadways. So,
Okay. Frank?
Yeah, so I just had a quick question on number 10, and we had a discussion earlier about Fox Mill. How do we not know what we're responsible for as far as storm sewer systems, culverts, and things like that? Why don't we know what the village is responsible for?
well, you would know the geographic limits, this roadway type of stuff here. But has anybody over the years summarized how many miles of storm sewer, how many catch basins, how many manholes are within your area of jurisdiction? Has not been a priority in the past. Okay, I'll use this example. If you recall last year, the Norton Lakes development was accepted. Developer completed, that's another section of roadway and improvements that became village jurisdiction. If you recall at that time, we had marked up the engineering plans, because that's been the first development accepted here in the village in the last X number of years. We marked up the plans as to who's responsible for what. The village responsible for this portion, the HOA for that portion. That has not been done previously for older sections of the village. That's why I can't sit up here and tell you how many miles of storm sewer the village is responsible for in Fox Hill, in Fox Mill.
So when the village was formed 20 years ago, nobody took that into consideration in forming the village and trying to plan for future infrastructure maintenance?
Not that we've been able to find. And we're not starting this from scratch with the GIS mapping. Kane County has a lot of it already. It needs to be proofed, it needs to be QC'd, it needs to be updated, but we're not starting from scratch on doing this. But not, well, I don't know that up 7 years ago, the village actually knew exactly how many miles of roadways it had that it was responsible for. Till we went through, did the roadbotics, summarized and put all that information together. That's for the roadways. This is another asset the village is responsible for, that you could use some better consolidated information on to be able to plan.
Well, and a large portion of it is still in the township highway departments.
Correct.
Responsibilities.
There are areas that are township, there are areas that are village, there's areas that are HOA responsibility.
But I guess my
And
point.
Wasco Sanitary, right?
For the water and sanitary sewer, yes, would be the Wasco Sanitary District. I'm talking here about storm sewers.
So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but 20 years ago, we were all promised that there wouldn't be a village real estate tax. But apparently, no research was done as to what the long-term responsibility of the village would be when it comes to these items, from what it sounds like. Because if we don't even know today, 20 years later, they sure as heck didn't know 20 years ago. Yet they made a promise that realistically probably couldn't be kept based on not knowing what the requirements would be to maintain the roads and infrastructure. Is that, am I making a logical comment here?
I
can,
If I could answer part of it, but I think trustee Millet,
Yeah,
having been
and-
around longer,
and he
might have
wants
some
to
additional.
speak.
I was going to say,
Yeah, go ahead.
to your point, trustee Benetti, we did, the subdivisions were essentially brand new at the time, and storm sewers have a useful life of 50 to 75 years, so we hadn't cost it to a point in time. But it's a function of the road drain, if it's a function of the road drainage, anything we use to maintain the road could be used for storm sewers. So motor fuel tax could be used for storm sewers. We could use highway, road and bridge for storm sewers, that sort of thing. And those subdivisions that were approved under the county, as Scott was saying, has the as-bills. And some, we have access to their GIS. We have a layer that's, the county hosts, a couple layers the county hosts on our behalf for the GIS, so we have some of it. And then the township has paper plats and stuff for, I mean, we know where the big culverts are. I know where the culvert in Denker is, and that kind of stuff. It's some of these little dinky crossroad culverts that you can't see anymore because they've been overgrown for 20, 30, 50 years type of thing, so they're, so we were aware of it and cognizant of it. Now is probably that we are looking at 20 years to the 50-year period for Fox Mill. This is a good time to have the conversation about what we need to set aside for that. For the most part, knock on wood, for the most part, storm sewer replacements are not routine. I mean, it's concrete pipe for the most part. It's held up. You see where sinkholes form, so you know where there's errors already, and some of those Commissioner Calucci's already fixed, so I don't think it's a large number liability, but it is a valid one. It's there.
I would add to that, it's the uncertainty because it's unknown as to summarized how much is there, makes it very hard for the village to plan for what needs to be done. And no, it does not all need to be done day one, but 20 years into it, getting into resurfacing, now it's time to get that information summarized to be able to plan for that. So,
Okay, go ahead, Janet.
Just responding to trustee Benetti's comments, it sounds like one of the things you were trying to get to is that anyone 20 years ago trying to make the representation that you're not going to need this tax or that tax or real estate tax or any other tax, it's a little difficult to understand how you could make that representation if you hadn't figured out what the liability side of the balance sheet might have looked like, right? And so we're now faced with that reality, but we understood that some of this was coming. And I think we understood in the case of Fox Mill that the normal useful life of some of these items didn't apply because there were some construction issues and other issues that have caused failures well before 50 to 70 years, right? So,
Yeah, no, and that's the exact point I was making. You would think at some point, and again, this is beating a dead horse, but there should have been a plan in place that, you know, even if it was just roads, that we know roads are good for roughly 25 years, that there should have been a set aside of some sort or a buildup of funds.
we're gonna have to lever up into it,
Yeah,
right?
so, you know, now we're trying to do things to catch up, you know, but it just seemed to me it was surprising for me to hear that we don't exactly know what we're responsible for. I mean, I guess that's my point more than anything, that 20 years into this, that we still don't understand what our potential responsibility and liability is. I guess that's my point more than anything. It's just more surprise than anything else.
And to be fair, the highway commissioner does his best job to try to make it a village issue even when it's his issue. And he's very politically astute at that, and I would give him credit.
Go ahead, Scott.
I would just add to that, it's not an insurmountable task to get this put together, but it is a task to gather, just as it was done with the roadway work. What's next? Storm sewers, culverts and such, is to get that gathered so you have the information to be able to work with. So, but I want to include that as something that we'd like to continue working on this year. A couple more items on here. 12 is obviously to continue working with Shodine on the LaFox development plan reviews type of stuff, agreements and such as those progress according to that schedule. Just keep it on here as a reminder. The next two items, 13 and 14, are two new items for the attention of the village board. So we were contacted by IDOT recently. They are doing a study of the intersection of Route 47 and Burlington Road because of an accident history there. And they are looking at, they've looked at both intersection improvements, turn lanes, and they've also looked at roundabout.
At McDonald, you mean?
I said Burlington.
You did.
Yes.
You said Burlington.
Sorry about that, thank
Yeah.
you. At 47 and McDonald Road. That helps because there already is a roundabout at the other one, at 47 and McDonald Road. So they contacted the village about coordination with other projects, drainage issues and such. But IDOT is progressing on design of significant intersection improvements at that location. That's the good news. The process has started. The unknown news is it's not yet funded for construction, or nor can they give us a schedule of next steps coming up. But to bring it to the attention of the board, it now has the attention of IDOT, and they are looking at it.
Janet?
So it's awesome if we can do anything to reduce the accident profile at the intersection. It's not just in the last year or two that we've had serious accidents. It's a long-term issue. However, our desire as a village, I think, was to try and make this a less attractive through route and make it clear that Silver Glen and Burlington were and Plato Road were the designated east-west through routes, right? And Plato in particular is the designated regional strategic artery in the area, I believe. And so I think our thought as a community was that how much of that Elgin-bound traffic do we want to absorb? Because realistically, most of that traffic is headed to Ponce of Stony Creek, right? And, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of homes there, relative to the maybe 100 lots that you pass on the way to there. So that's what the traffic, that's the source of the traffic. And whether what the people bound to those properties have anything to do with the accidents, we don't know. That's just a statistical thing. But but the roundabout sounds like it might improve safety, which is awesome, but would also not in any way discourage traffic there. And so, did we possibly poke the bear by suggesting that we didn't want to continue the westbound route to Burlington, for example, or otherwise wanted to regulate that intersection? Because the issue as you get further east of there isn't just the safety of the intersection at 47 itself, but also what happens when you get to Kendall, what happens when you get to Dittman. Dittman's outside of our jurisdiction, but Kendall isn't. And I can't see how you can possibly improve traffic flow off of 47 without regulating that intersection at Kendall and McDonald, which I already think is well warranted just by the geometry of it. I've said this many times. I don't think you need to do a traffic study or anything. You can just look at the geometry of it and see that the angle of Kendall to McDonald warrants a stop sign. So if this is on the horizon, should we not also be pursuing the stop sign that is going to calm traffic between 47 and Dittman? Because that's an almost mile-long stretch that people drive unimpeded.
What we have right now is, we have very little information about what the state is looking at as far as the study. They've not provided any plans, preliminary geometrics, study that they have done so far. That is in process. So once we receive that, then we will have something that we can look at, that we can provide additional input on, that we can react to. We had already mentioned to the state about the potential village interim desire to close the west leg, which was discussed here, which was always understood to be a very, very short-term, partial, not even, I don't even want to say solution, but a very short-term measure to try to reduce traffic in that area. This is something new that just came up within the last month or two, so we don't have much to react on other than wanted to make sure you knew that it was a large intersection study coming up. When we have more info, we'll definitely be able to review it, bring it to your attention, then have something to look at.
Okay,
Okay. Last
go
item.
on.
Oh,
Yeah, go
Last
ahead.
item I'll cover is Kane County is working with IDOT on a Pell study, which is precursor to preliminary engineering, planning and environmental linkages. It's a whole overall logistic look at Route 47. And when they do this, they do it in large segments. So what's currently they're looking at is from Route 88 all the way up to Plank Road, because they've already done it south of 88, and they have a separate contract north of Plank Road. So they'll do it for these multi-mile segments. They're currently going through the consultant selection process. It's going to take a while for this to get going, but just wanted to give a reminder, because this came up about a year or so ago. Somebody was thought about that. This is another study coming up for long-term look at potential improvements, impacts along that section of Route 47. Again, there's nothing to react to. They don't even have the consultant selected yet. But just a heads up that you'll hear about this in coming years, and have public involvement is a very large part of these studies. So there'll be outreach to every affected municipality, township, public agency as that process moves along.
Yeah, Administrator Rooney and I were meeting with KDOT quite often regarding Route 47, because probably 20 years ago, they did have a plan, KDOT did put together a plan for Route 47. But I think the funds are really what's holding it back right now. That they talked a lot about the funds, and they actually wanted us to contribute funds to the study for Route 47. But, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, they quit calling the meetings, so,
So,
yeah.
A heads up of something, large regional study that is ongoing. So
Right.
that's quite a bit of information summarized
Good.
here. Public, as a reminder, the next Public Works meeting should be happening within the next month. Minutes and such will be on the website. And just a reminder, as of right now, as far as I know, we're still short one member
Okay.
of the Public Works Committee. So any assistance that could be provided to try to fill that for quorum and assistance would be very helpful.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Chief.
I thought I had some long staff reports, but he just blew me out of the water with that one.
Was very informative, though, Scott.
This
Thank
is
you.
tying up the whole budget
Yeah.
budget process early on, just to be clear. He didn't do that
Yeah.
uninvited. I've been working on this with him for 5 months.
Well, Chief, you set the bar, and I mean, I wanted to make sure to,
Yeah.
but it's been a few months since I've done this, so it consolidated a lot. So thank you very much for your
No,
time.
thank you, Scott. Yeah, excellent.
You know,
Okay,
and Scott didn't even cover, there's a number of 10,000 max grants for stormwater issues across many areas in the village. It was a very wet spring, so some of our problem areas, you will be hearing about that probably from Trustee Muir as she gets on that committee, because there's a few of those pending.
Good. Not that committee. Yeah, she's IT.
I'm sorry. I just always think of you as Public Works, because you used to be in Public Works.
Now, as of the consent agenda just being passed, the
Yes.
chair of the IT.
Yes.
No, you're not volunteering me for Public Works now, are you?
You show up more regular than the members do, though.
Yeah, more regular than the liaison.
Okay, well, let's move on here. We're 2 action items. A motion to accept the Village of Campton Hills Police Pension Fund Annual
moved.
Report. Who moved? Mike?
Second.
And who second? Janet? Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Trustee Person.
Aye.
Trustee Millet.
Aye.
Trustee Benetti.
Aye.
Trustee Boatner.
Aye.
And Trustee Muir.
Aye.
Okay. And B, Resolution 26-29, opposing the Illinois Build Act.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Frank.
Second.
Second by Kim. Any discussion?
It's a terrible act.
Yes, I'd agree. Encourage everybody to write your representatives
Absolutely.
now.
Yes, yeah. It's
It
extremely important.
has the elements of, and I've asked a couple of people this when I was down there, it has the elements of wanting to address a real problem, I get it. But it really seems to be more a shot at the aldermanic privilege in Chicago than a lot of places, because aldermen can put brick on anything just because they don't like it. So if it would have been, Build Act would be for municipalities of 500,000 or more, as several of our state statutes indicate, that'd been
Yeah.
fine, but yeah, you can't be blanket like this.
Okay. Well, ready to vote? Roll call?
Trustee Muir.
Aye.
Trustee Boatner.
Aye.
Trustee Benetti.
Aye.
Trustee Millet.
Aye.
And Trustee Person.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We'll get to discussion items. A moratorium on accessory structures over 600 square feet in area. And I'll pass this to Administrator Rooney.
And I know I've spoken to many of you about this, and the intention would be to have the motion be for farm zoning only in that district. And we'd need 90 or 100 days, not 6 months as we discussed, a couple of you. So the length of time to be the moratorium, we'd recommend it be for no more than 100 days, and in the F zoning district, farms only. Is the only that's where the moratorium would be in place for structures greater.
Janet?
I don't think it's appropriate to suggest that there's any particular properties that are a problem here. I'm not aware of any specific properties that we're concerned about at this time. But what we are aware of, as I understand it, is that there is some daylight between the county's realization that we needed to say that if you're going to purchase an F property, then you need to continue that usage. And the county realized that we had people that were in other businesses that weren't farming, that were purchasing F properties, and then using that large acreage to engage in their other business. And so, while we were in the midst of figuring out what we want to do about chickens and horses, which was important, right? I was in favor of getting that sorted. But while we were doing that, the county was establishing that if you buy a farm, you need a farm on it, and otherwise you need to pursue a different type of zoning for it. And we didn't. Most of the other municipalities around us have. And so we see at least one within a half mile of here, very visible consequence of that, where someone did a completely legal thing that we're not necessarily thrilled about, but what are we going to do, right? And so what we can do is we can learn from it and decide whether that's the type of usage that we want to see in other similar properties. And what's in place is in place, but going forward, if you buy a 5 or 10 acre F property, do we want, as the county does, do we want for you to continue that ag use, or are we willing to allow you to pursue any various kind of business use that you can dream of? Because that's what we're seeing potentially. And so we don't know, as I understand it. We know what some proposals are. We know what some concerns are, but we don't know exactly what this means for us. And so the way it's been explained to me so far is that that's why we want a moratorium window for us to evaluate the issue more thoroughly and try and understand what we're dealing with, allow our Planning and Zoning Commission to advise us on what we're dealing with.
Right,
She
any
just
other-
gave the staff report,
Yeah.
so I
Any
think
other
we're good.
discussion on moratorium? Nick?
Yeah, so when this was first discussed with me, I was concerned that it was targeting accessory buildings, and it's not. We're using that as a tool in order to,
That is a symptom of what occurs, is they build accessory dwelling, or not dwelling units necessarily, but accessory buildings that are not farm-related. They're related to a contractor's yard or some other use that's not properly zoned on that acreage. And then we end up in adjudication, then potentially KDOT, or going to county with the law firm. And I'd like to just straighten it out so that they can't build those, so it'll make it less, so we can make the zoning changes to be very specific on what is a ag use, or if they want a variance, they spell it out, or change their zoning on those small. We don't have too many farm zoned left that are under 10 acres. Most of that got wrapped up into RE1. So it's really on the 10 to 50 acre parcels where we're getting pressure for somebody to say, I'd like to go into farming. And we know their other use a mile or 2 miles away is a contractor's yard. They're just wanting to expand their contractor's yard because they can sub that out at 5 to 10,000 per, and on 30 acres, you could be making in rent well in excess of $100,000. If, I could see a lot of entrepreneurs looking at that going, that's my kind of business.
So what I was trying to understand is you have all the tools in place right now outside of building a new building. If someone buys a farm that already has existing buildings on it, the matrix in the zoning ordinance, it's very clear that there are not permitted contractor yards, storage facilities. I mean, really, the only things that are permitted are agricultural. Even building a home is a C, if there's not a C on it, that was permitted with conditions. So I'm just trying to understand, what's an example of what you would add? I mean, if someone's already out, they purchase a farm property, they don't have to check in and check out. If they buy it, they're taking the risk, if they do something that's not permitted, that they're then going to get, that the village is going to follow up and they'll have to go through adjudication and have the
Well,
daily
there's,
fines.
the issue could be at the traffic circle at Bolcom. He's got 7 acres of corn generally every year, so he's technically still farming, so that big outbuilding that looks like a barn is not being utilized for pure ag use. It's a contractor for a different purpose, but he technically followed, we can't take him to adjudication because he's still farming. We want to just tighten it up so we don't have many repeats of that. And that's a clean, beautiful-looking property, but not all of those contractor yards would be that way. And we've had, when I first got here, we had a lawsuit, and now I just have seen a rash of people coming in, inquiring, can I do this? We tell them no, and they go, well, I'm going to say I'm farming.
And I agree with the concept.
And we just don't want to be
Nobody-
chasing people down that paid, good money, and then they can't get the return on the investment, and then they ask for a variance, because they created their own economic
That's
hardship.
right. That's
So we'd just like to clarify it. And the moratorium for that pole barn type setup is a way to then study the whole 10 acre to 50 acre that we have pressure of people buying and have no intention of farming. They may put a chicken coop on there and say they're farming, but they've got then all types of contractor business on the side.
It was a 90-day.
90 to 100 is what I'd recommend, because and Rolf Frederick, we've spoken to him, and Jim is preparing something, Jim Brown, a report. They'll discuss it in June at their second Wednesday of the month, and then probably make a recommendation for July and get it to you in July or August. So then you can discuss it.
Right, so the desire tonight is to have some direction for
Preparing.
for our office to prepare an ordinance to formalize the moratorium. It would have a discussion in general terms as to the reason for some additional study by staff and the PZC to bring a recommendation back to the village board on potential changes to the zoning ordinance. That would happen likely before the moratorium expires. But because we're talking about property rights, it should be done through an ordinance. You'll have a chance to review the ordinance before approval, but it's going to have a discussion of the reasoning behind this temporary pause, that it's not a permanent pause, that there may or may not be changes to the zoning ordinance that will put into place what changes what the village believes are desired to address what has begun to be an issue that could not have been anticipated likely when you reviewed the zoning ordinance in 2024. So,
That's
yep.
good. Okay,
So I just need consensus that we'll prepare, the staff, working with the law firm, will prepare a moratorium ordinance for next meeting
okay,
on June 2nd.
good. All right, we'll move on. Intergovernmental agreement with Kane County Department of Transportation
Yes.
related to the LaFox of Campton Hills preliminary PUD.
So the next two items, I would just suggest we defer those both until June 2nd. because we touched on staff needing to work with KDOT on the IGA, the document that we received.
Okay. Kim?
So our calendar doesn't show a June 2nd, so we're going to have a special meeting?
I thought we agreed to push it back from June 2nd.
I do think that this
Frank's
is
right.
very important to get moving on this, because the calendar for the county to review the IGA they put before us, I'd like to give some solid pushback on certain items and make that not just the staff doing it, but this board doing it before their June 11th committee meeting that they'll hold with their staff to pass the document that you have that we do not support. So I'd like to specify how we'd like it changed before they committee the whole it, getting it ready for teed up for approval in July at the county board. And then it kind of be a fait accompli. I don't want to get us in that position, because if I say I don't agree with it, staff, that's one thing, but if the board has endorsed specific changes requested, it holds a lot more weight with the county staff and then the county board. And then just the timing issue with this development south, the LaFox, we need to keep the momentum moving forward, with the developer too. And the RDA cannot be finished until we've got this IGA with the county settled, because some of these changes, there's a greater swing in the dollar amount than the Harley Bridge. It's significant. It could be $1 million difference between what I would like us to propose in the IGA versus what they're asking. And granted, most of that cost would be on the developer, but then that's affecting our redevelopment agreement budget and the TIF dollars available for the but-for test to build everything else that's required over there. So I know you want to go to the summer schedule, but, in my last couple weeks working here, I'd like to make sure we stay on target to not have this development slip.
Okay, I'm just traveling that day because I didn't think we were meeting, so I gotta see if I can make some arrangements.
Okay. You're unavailable? Janet, our June 2nd? Tuesday. You're unavailable?
And I think I'm on a plane at the same time.
Mhm.
I'm on a plane on June 2nd also. I was trying hard to get to where I was going by 5 o'clock.
Should we,
So I could join this meeting, but everybody else is available.
Could we get June 1st, a special meeting on Monday?
Yes.
On Monday?
You do Monday? You can't do it.
Okay, Mike can't? No, Frank can't?
I leave Thursday, I don't get back till that
Okay.
June 2nd, so.
I can join remotely on the 3rd easily, on the 2nd possibly.
The 3rd could work for folks?
I could maybe do the 3rd. I can call in because I'm traveling for APWA.
You have to have a physical quorum. If you
Right.
you're not going.
Well, Nick can do June 3rd.
Are you back, you said, on the 3rd?
I'm back on the 2nd, but I got commitments on the 3rd and 4th, but I can try to make the 3rd work, so.
Kim? Can you do the 3rd?
Stay away from the weekend.
Stay away from the weekend. Okay.
So we would have 3. Is that enough?
Is Therese back?
Huh?
I don't know.
If Form's here,
Yeah. Yeah, so we could tentatively do the 3rd then. We'll confirm it to make sure nobody's not available. Because we'll need Therese back that day. I think she's getting,
I might be going to
yeah.
Paris.
So
I'll confirm it with everybody.
What time, the meeting would, on the 2nd would be at 7?
Yeah,
So I land at 6, so I can call in?
yes.
If that's
If it's
all right.
work, yeah.
So it's, yeah, it's definitely, that's the reason I'm going, is
Yeah,
for work.
yeah.
So, okay. All right, so I can call in by 7, assuming the flight's on time and everything.
And Janet, you said the 3rd you could do for sure, but not the 2nd, right? So we'll shoot for the 3rd.
What date does that fall on?
Wednesday.
Okay.
I'll confirm it with everybody, you know, you have a chance to look
Okay.
at it.
All right.
So,
Uh,
want to go to closed session?
Yeah, we removed 7C as well, under discussion items. Any additional items from President Trustee Attorney? I think we just, oh, Mike, go ahead.
I just got one thing for everybody's to watch if you want, and for Scott. So our Congress critters, I was in DC for APWA last week, and then also had to go to Michigan. The only important part of that is it was 97 degrees in DC, and you have to dress up, you know, so that wasn't unpleasant. Then I go to Michigan, to Traverse, and it's 42 on Wednesday, so. But while there, the Congress introduced, they're calling it Build America 250, so that's the new highway bill. Talked to them a little bit about it. One cool thing, and it went through markup Thursday morning. It got reintroduced. The Senate hasn't done anything yet. There is a potential to have the federal, what we've always called the pass-through money, the Fed money that goes through IDOT to us through KCOM, to go straight to CMAP
Oh, no,
and bypass IDOT,
no,
which would be the most fantastic thing ever.
it is good.
Yes,
Yeah.
because that would automatically gain like 6 months on everything we do, if not a year.
CMAP was
So,
gone.
no, CMAP's the new one.
They're still,
Yeah,
Active?
CATS and NIPSI became CMAP.
got it.
So, yeah, and that would be, so any,
Not the old seat that did our study.
no, it's still them, but they have different functions too.
Good.
But the main function that they've always supposed been to do is, when you get these allocations, they dole it out, quote unquote. That's the application process, the committee I chair and that Scott comes to. We have a ranking system. We don't do it based on whose turn it is or whose best buddy it is. We have a ranking system, which they now require other, it's called a Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO. And so the issue, and we're not the only one in Illinois, is that just the grind that going through the state DOT just adds nothing but time. There's no value add to it, because the allocations are suggested and made by, in this case, CMAP. They don't get changed. CMAP is an amalgamation of KCOM, DuPage Mayors and Managers, Northwest Municipal, the 11
Okay.
sub-MPOs that we have. So they just pass the money through. That's their only job, is to make sure that you don't do anything crazy with it, and they can audit you. So one of the provisions that is currently in the language is to just skip that step and give it straight to the MPOs, which would be fantastic. So anybody, you know, I had a sit down with Foster and his people, emphasized how important that would be. He understands it, he gets it. And so if you care about transportation stuff, like I have to, keep your eye, and I don't think we have to bug any of our Congress critters to vote for it. They're all in favor of it. Just kind of keep an eye on it.
Oh, thank you for the update, Mike. All right, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session for interviewing.
So moved.
Oh, gosh, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees or contractors.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Frank, second by
Second.
Janet. Okay, roll call, or all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
No final action to be taken.
okay.
Yeah, I can do it.
We could
No, we're gonna stay
stay in
here.
here, so
We're going to take Chief's
the guy in the blue
table.
suit can stay, but nobody else.
Yeah,
Are you sure you want to do that?
Troy can stay. and-
Oh,
What's that?
camera can be foiable. Can
Not,
Huh?
there wouldn't be any audio, but they could see, the camera could see us.